Representative Bly, education funding?
Yes, I agree with many of the things that the senator said, and I think that we are asking our schools to do more and more, and we don't always send money to the schools to help them meet those needs, so we need to be in mind of the costs that are there. Also, the federal government, if we just look at special education, which ends up costing individual districts more when the federal government doesn't fully fund what was proposed for special education, and also individual school districts, if there are needs that go unmet, they'll still have to try to meet those within their own budgets. Fortunately, Minnesota has been generous and actually required higher standards in special education than the nation. So we're committed, I think, to making sure that all learners can learn. I think that there are a number of things about the achievement gap that we don't fully understand or know how to address, and I think that's something that we need to spend more time doing and understanding. On the committee that I sit on in the House, we've been talking about some of those things, and I think it's important that we recognize that there are difficulties in bringing the diverse populations we have together and making sure we meet their needs in a really equitable way.
School funding?
I can definitely say, living in rural Minnesota, that equitable funding is certainly a topic that we struggle with. There are some disparities in different parts of the states that I think that we should address. But I also think that if there's sort of this assumption that funding equates to good education, and then certainly you need to be adequately funded for good education, so don't get me wrong, but we sort of have this mentality that more funding means better education. And when I talk to the teachers in my district, certainly funding may come up, but one thing that also comes up is the frustration that over the years, I think of like a teacher that I talked to a couple of years ago who's been teaching for 25 years, and I've heard this consistently from other teachers, that what she was able to do in the classroom 25 years ago as a teacher, she fundamentally cannot do. She does not have the flexibility to do some very common sense things. And certainly when you have kids in the classroom have particular needs in this area or that area, you want to be able to do that. And we often talk about the number of tests that they have to do, the standardized testing. I think it surprises some of the people on the other side of the aisle. I think we have too many tests too. And I think that the teachers are forced to teach to the standard of that test. I'd like to see some of that go away. I really trust the teachers that we have. They have great education, and so I guess I want to get back to when we talk about education funding, it seems to be the piece that makes most sense to people, and we certainly must have that conversation. But while we're doing that, let's talk about how we can get these quality teachers being able to teach our kids.
Senator Eakin, you've got a little background in this, and then we'll come back to you, Senator Nelson. But I'd be interested in what you have to say about education funding.
Sure, yeah. And as a teacher, and I actually have a daughter, our oldest daughter is a teacher as well. She just graduated from college 2 years ago and is in her second year teaching science at the high school level. And attracting and keeping good quality teachers is absolutely key to a good quality education. It's the most important component to a good quality education in our system. And one of the things that's been rather disheartening is we used to attract teachers from North Dakota to come to Minnesota. Actually, we've seen the opposite problem now. We see more teachers going to North Dakota. And part of the problem is because of the testing, the teacher testing, for one thing, which doesn't really adequately or accurately display what's necessary in the classroom. So those are some of the things. One thing that needs to be worked on. And compensation is a key factor in that as well. We need to pay teachers what they're worth so that we attract the best quality people into that profession, which is so vitally important to our quality of life and to our future as a state. And I think Representative Bly talked about how schools are being asked to do more and more, and that's so true. And that's one of the things that requires, I think, more resources being provided for our schools so they can deal with many of the problems they're being asked to address. And Representative Miller, you talked about the testing as well, which I also agree with. I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on the testing. It's important. It's an important tool, but it shouldn't be the end all. And I think that one of the reasons that we have, and Minnesota does rank very high in quality of life measures, and one of the biggest reasons why is because we do have a great education system in this state. and we need to continue to build on that, continue to invest in that. And one thing on the small schools, there's a proposal being put forward, and I've put this forward in the past as well. I called it fixed cost revenue, because for a smaller school, it does cost more per student because you still have to, heat the same size building and do the maintenance and all those types of things, those fixed costs, but you're spreading it out over a smaller student population. And I think that these schools are so vitally important to the lives of people in these small towns. It's the center point. In Twin Valley, the school is the center point of our
How big
lives.
is Twin Valley? 800
people.
Right.
And that's where my daughter teaches. She teaches in the school where she went to school. So she's with some of her fellow teachers that she had as a student, and she's teaching her younger sister too there, by the way.
Well, there you go. I wonder how that's going.
But it's actually going pretty well. It's a good thing they get along. So. But one of the proposals I put forward is that you weight the first 700 students or so more than you do the subsequent students, so that they have more funding per pupil for those first students. And all the schools would benefit from that, but especially the smaller ones that have higher fixed costs and can't spread it out over as many students.
You wanted to make one last point?
Well, I would just say that it's good. We could do a whole show on education financing. It's 42% of our state budget. And it's incredibly important. And there's a number of things that we need to do. I think the most important thing is to really focus on a couple key things. One is making sure kids are ready for kindergarten when they get there. And then secondly, make sure that kids are reading well by the time they leave third grade. A couple statistics. 87% of kids who don't graduate from high school or don't graduate on time were struggling readers in third grade. And 88% of kids who are free and reduced lunch kids who have some poverty issues, if 88% of those kids who graduate on time were reading proficiently in grade 3. So we get down to that very basic things. Be ready for kindergarten, read well at the end of grade 3. Those are some very focused areas where we need to focus on for all of our students.
If I could
Yeah,
just,
sure, absolutely. Finish up.
I too struggle with all of the testing, and if one thing I think of with teachers is if you look at, for instance, what Finland does with their teachers is they pay for their education through a master's degree, and also do internships in schools so that teachers are really well trained before they get into the classroom to actually teach, and so they're ready to do the things they need to do on their own and the kind of creative things that students need to be exposed to. One of the things I think that we have backwards is we tend to focus on the problems, and if students are not reading or if they're not doing math or something, we focus on that. And in my experience, nothing turns a learner off faster than focusing on where they fail or where they have trouble. And finding ways to develop our education system where we really capitalize on creating kids who want to learn and feel good about learning. Many of the students I worked with at the Area Learning Center felt that they could not learn, and that's something they learned when they were in second grade. And they just sort of gave up. They sat in the back of the classroom and they didn't try. And I think we could develop methods and be thinking about how do we help each student discover who they are and how they can best learn, and then build on that. I think it would be a different way to look at what we do. One of the things that struck me, too, is I was talking to someone who'd visited with teachers in Singapore about the great success they have in Singapore. And they score very high on the PISA tests. And they asked, well, how did you develop these schools which are being so successful? They said, well, we went to the United States and we looked at all your research, and then we implemented it. We don't implement our own research. We fight over what's best or what to do. And we don't get at how really to look at how kids learn best.
Well, we'll have the opportunity to discuss this in greater detail. My only contribution to this is that I've been doing this program long enough that I remember when the hot topic was outcome-based education. Somebody very close to me has a file cabinet full of that stuff. So anyway, we'll leave that topic for another day.
I remember that too. I hate to say that.
Me too.
I do remember that.